and welcome to the Movies Past and Present podcast. It's June 25th, 2020, and this is episode 49. I'm your host, Stanford Clark, and I'm podcasting from the Crossroads of the West in beautiful Salt Lake City, Utah. Just like my blog, moviespastandpresent.com, I'll be providing recommendations, commentary, and reviews about current and classic cinema. Thanks for tuning in, and let's do this thing. Well, given that we're still in the throes of the pandemic with no end in sight, there's not a lot of new movies to report on. But I do want to share with you an experience that I just had last Friday night. I did go to a movie theater and live to tell about it. So here's my recap of it. The Megaplex Theaters chain, which is a local chain here in the state of Utah where I live, they reopened up last week, and I think every theater in their chain reopened. I know that some other movie theaters are looking to open too. Cinemark Theaters, I think, started opening some of their theaters in some different markets in the U.S. The Cinemark theaters here in Salt Lake City are opening up on July 3rd. So this report is specifically about Megaplex Theaters. I've got a link to Megaplex Theaters in the podcast notes on my blog. But I got to tell you, I mean, Megaplex Theaters, they're a really nice theater chain. Over time, they've been in operation now for 21 years, and again they're based out of Utah, and they just do a great job. Great customer service, friendly employees that do a nice job, nice concessions, nice projection, good stereos, high quality, just overall a really high quality experience. So I was happy that Megaplex is reopening. I ended up going to their theater that's called the Jordan Commons Theater, which is located in Sandy, Utah, which is a suburb of Salt Lake City. But this is a big theater. They've got, I think, 20 screens in there now, and and there's an IMAX theater, within the complex. And I've been here hundreds of times. So this was really interesting to go back into the theater again after it's been closed, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and just to have another experience in this place that I know really well. But wow, this was really different. So. First off, I just want to report we showed up. This was on a Friday night. This was last Friday night. This was around 6:30ish p.m. I was with a friend, and we wanted to go see, something that was around kind of 6:37 p.m., right? Very standard start time for movies here in, Salt Lake City. So we donned our masks and wore my mask the whole time, just reporting, and walked into the theater. Well, first off, the parking, the whole thing really started with pulling into the parking lot, because usually on a Friday night at this theater, I mean, the place is packed. You're parking way in the distance. They've got a parking, kind of a parking terrace, but parking way in the back. You gotta walk a shame to get from your car to the theater. People are typically everywhere. There's lots and lots of activity. So pulled in on this Friday night, and the place was practically empty. We ended up parking on basically the front row. And, there it goes. So, put on the face mask and walked in the main entrance. And the place was absolutely empty. I mean, again, we had a hint that was going to happen given the emptiness of the parking lot, but I've never walked into that building, and it was just empty and completely quiet, and that was actually surreal. Just truthfully, it was surreal because, again, I've never known that building not to just be absolutely teeming with people and activity. So, I'm walking down the main entrance hall there towards the box office, and as any movie theater would have, it's lined with the walls are lined with lighted cases with movie posters in them, advertising upcoming attractions and different things. And honestly, every poster that was in the cases had some black tape that was put over the release date, since every release date has been changed, and so it's not like the tape was covering over objectionable content. It was really just covering over these release dates. So it was very noticeable, and again, just added to the experience. So they are touting at Megaplex, which I think other theater chains are doing too, that you can have a touchless experience. So we ended up buying tickets on a mobile phone, and so anyway, then what they ended up, what Megaplex had us do, and maybe just because given the amount of crowds, so there was an employee standing in front of the box office wearing a mask too and had gloves on, but who signals over to the snack bar, and that's where we actually scanned our ticket, was there at the snack bar. The snack bar had I called it a Disneyland queue, but just one of those queues with all the stanchions that you just have, like the maze. And they had, to their credit, they had stickers every 6 feet to encourage social distancing, but there was no one in line, so we just walked right up to the front and scanned the code on the smartphone, and anyway, they let us in. So I didn't buy any refreshments, so I didn't see what was going on. I've heard that they don't get anything like for you, I guess, quote unquote, fresh. They don't like get the popcorn straight from the corn popper thing. They bag it and kind of have it all just ready, and I guess that makes it quicker and more hygienic too. But again, I think I was all just kind of, in a way, just so shocked about the experience that I didn't really notice what was going on there with the refreshments. Other than, again, all the employees of the theater were wearing masks and gloves. So also noticed just throughout walking through this, again, this is a very large complex, but they had Purell, or hand sanitizer stands located all over the place. I didn't count how many were in the lobby, but there were a lot. And also, this lobby, I mean, it's large enough. In the past, they've had just little round tables, and that you could fit maybe 3 or 4 chairs around, and you could use it as a gathering place while you're just waiting, or just kind of get for whatever use to eat or whatever. But again, there's only one food place of many food places that are typically open in there, and they were also the place where you'd get your ticket scanned. So walk down to the specific hall where our theater was, and we ended up seeing. So at the theater, they're showing a lot of I guess what you just could consider classic cinema, because again, not a lot of new movies. Most of the movies that were playing that night were either from Universal Studios or from Paramount Pictures. So, but they had Jurassic Park, Raiders of the Lost Ark, we ended up seeing Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, which is a movie that I love. And so I was happy to see that on the big screen. You know, I had absolutely no qualms about that. But they were also playing Back to the Future and Jaws. So, you know, some really cool movies. But also, though, what they're doing is they're maybe only showing each one of these movies once a day. And so I think that, you know, one of the strategies is they're really trying to spread out the crowd so they're not all just showing up at the same time. So, you know, they stagger it. Anyway, we're going to the theater into the actual, you know, auditorium to see Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. And one of those tables that I was talking about that they had usually just, you know, where you could sit around, they actually had it right by the theater door with a big container of wipes that you could take in if you wanted to wipe your seat down. But they did claim that they had wiped all the seats before the movie started. And then, or I guess in between screenings, and then another giant container of hand sanitizer. So of course I'm using it every time I saw one of those hand sanitizer ones. I got it. I used it. So we walked into the auditorium, and I got to tell you, I mean, and as I mentioned, Megaplex typically runs a nice theater, and they're, you know, they're typically clean as movie theaters go, right? But holy smokes, this theater was it was glistening. It was so clean. The floors were spotless, and clearly it looked like every single seat had been cleaned. Whatever method they were using, if they were spraying it or everybody's wiping down or whatever, but clearly I have never seen a cleaner theater in my life. Now, this is a pretty big auditorium. I'm not sure, not sure how many seats. I'm guessing maybe 200. The one nice thing that Megaplex was doing too, when we bought the seats, because they do reserve seating like most theaters do these days, but they only had seats available on every other row, and that was just that way on the computer. So the computer, they've programmed their computer so you only can pick a seat in every other row. And then we picked our two seats, and then clearly, the seats on either side of us got blocked. So I don't know how many seats got blocked, but we got into the theater, and really, I think maybe there were a total, by the time the movie started, just a few minutes after we got settled in, maybe 15 total people in the theater. The closest people to me there on the row we were on, which was in the middle of the theater, maybe 7 seats away from me, there was like a guy and probably 2 of his kids. And then there were some other people in front of where we were sitting, on that 2 rows away, because of the row right in front of us and the row right behind us, there were no seats. So anyway, I felt very secure, really, in the theater because there was no one around us. My friend sat one seat in between us, but so I just had my mask on the whole time, as I mentioned, because I didn't get any refreshments, and didn't hear any coughing or anything, but I felt, I guess, as comfortable as I could under the circumstances. And I have to really hand it to Megaplex. I thought that they did a really nice job with the whole experience, because what was really kind of scary for me, because I can't say that I was just dying to go do this, but it turned out to be a really good experience, and that I'm likely to go again. Now, I've heard that Megaplex Theaters, which is known, they do a $5 Tuesday. I hear that $5 Tuesday is still in place, even, with all these different restrictions. So that's an attractive thing, because we paid full price on a Friday, and even so, full price, and also even with a quote unquote classic movie, they weren't discounting. Now, Cinemark has been advertising that they are going to be with these classic. They're calling, I think, like a comeback classic is what they're calling these movies. Like, please come back to the movie theater. But they're going to be $5 for regular seats, I think, every day, and then $3 for seniors and young children. I'm not sure what the ages are on that, but that's might be worth going for too. So anyway, then just got back to the car, and it was interesting because going back to the car, and a few more cars had filled into the parking lot, but not very many. So we'll see what happens with movie theaters. But again, my kudos to Megaplex Theaters for making that making what really could have been a scary experience, or probably one that I might just have walked away from, into one that was encouraging and comfortable and hopeful for good days ahead. Well, if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I have been watching the all of the James Bond 007 movies. So, James, actually was supposed to, this April, as in like 2 months ago, there was supposed to be another James Bond film, a brand new film coming to theaters. The movie's titled No Time to Die. Stars Daniel Craig, again, as James Bond. But because of COVID, the movie got pushed to November. But it got me thinking, wouldn't it be fun? And also, all this time at home, wouldn't it be fun to watch all of the official James Bond movies? So I have been watching one a week, and I'm just right in the middle of this. As I mentioned, there are 25 official Bond films, and a couple unofficial ones, which I'm not watching. I've got details about this on my blog, and I'll have links. I've got links to it in the podcast notes. But the James Bond films started in 1962. The very first one was Dr. No, and these are adaptations of a book series written by the British author Ian Fleming. And so Ian Fleming sold his movie rights to this company called Eon Productions, which is run by Albert Broccoli, who goes by the nickname, or who went by the nickname Cubby. So Alfred Cubby Broccoli and his Eon Productions, they are the official. They're the ones who've got the official license, and have been the one creating these films since 1962. So, Dr. No was the first one. The film starred Sean Connery as James Bond, and Sean Connery ended up making 6 James Bond films altogether from between 1962 and 1971. He came back as James Bond in the 80s, but it was not an official Broccoli production. So there's some copyright things and whatnot that were going on, but that's not one I'm watching. So for this particular project, but so Sean Connery started in 6. But what's interesting is after the fifth movie, which was You Only Live Twice, that came out in 1967, Sean Connery did, took a break, or maybe it was intentionally he was just going to leave the role altogether. So the sixth Bond film, called On Her Majesty's Secret Service, actually starred a different Bond, and it was his one and only time as an Australian model and actor named George Lazenby. So I have to say that out of these movies that I've watched so far, that was probably the most unique one. That film starring George Lazenby, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, made in 1969. It has a very unique style, and part of it, I think, is just because here we've got this different Bond in it. But it's also the one film, and spoiler alert if you haven't already seen it, where Bond truly falls in love. He falls in love with a woman who's played by the British actress Diana Rigg, and it's just, I didn't hate it. Let's just put it that way. I think some people rip on Her Majesty's Secret Service and say that that it's not a really great film, but I quite enjoyed it overall. He falls in love with this woman named Tracy, who's the daughter of a mob boss who Bond is working with. As you can imagine, as many of these Bond women do, Tracy meets an untimely demise, and it's really actually quite tragic. But so that's probably been the most unique one. I thought I'd tell you about the two worst films I've watched so far, and then the two best. And I was actually quite surprised by these. Again, I've seen most of these films, but it's been a while, and it's also just interesting to see the progression, of these films, since I'm watching them also in order. So I think that the two worst films, first off, is from 1965, is the film Thunderball, and it stars Sean Connery again as James Bond. And on the surface, you think that Thunderball is just going to be like one of the coolest movies ever, right? It has this major underwater theme. The bad people from Spectre, which is a group of villains that James Bond fights over time. They get their hands on some atomic bombs, which they then hide in this big, fancy underwater, lair. And there are so many underwater scenes filmed in this that go on for hours. They feel that way. There's one battle sequence underwater, which I think supposedly was incredibly expensive and really difficult to film. And again, you think it would be really, really cool, but frankly, it was just an absolute bore. So, and just an interesting side note, that one movie that I was telling about, how Sean Connery came back as James Bond in the 80s, it's called Never Say Never Again. And it's actually a remake of Thunderball. So, strike 1, 2, and 3 for that. So for me, Thunderball was one of the worst. And then I gotta say, the next two worst are a tie, and they're starring Roger Moore. Now, I can't say that I'm a Roger Moore hater, but I just don't really. I think Sean Connery was just the best James Bond, and so Roger Moore is very debonair, and he's got a real presence, and he delivers those great Bond one-liners with aplomb. But he, I don't know, it's just like a real action guy. I can't say that I'm buying it. his first film, his first Bond film, was Live and Let Die, and that came out in 1973. And I gotta tell you, I just thought that Live and Let Die was not that great. It had some exciting action and whatnot. It also stars the Bond babe, and it is Jane Seymour, and it's one of her, I think it's her first movie role. She plays a tarot card reader named Solitaire, but there is this really creepy voodoo element to the film, because it's set in this Caribbean island. That's where this the bad dude, Mr. Big, I believe is the name of the villain. Very creative, right? Has his evil lair, but between the voodoo and just a lot of dumb stuff, Live and Let Die was a real disappointment. I'm throwing this in there because I just watched it, and I think it almost ties with Live and Let Die. So sorry, I'm picking 3 worst films. But it's the movie Moonraker from 1979. I can't remember if this was the very first James Bond movie I saw, or not. It might have been. But I hope it wasn't, because I thought that Moonraker was pretty dumb. It's James Bond in space. It was made in 1979, and the original plan with Eon Productions and with Cubby Broccoli was to make For Your Eyes Only. In fact, at the end of The Spy Who Loved Me, how it says James Bond will return. It's saying James Bond will return in For Your Eyes Only. So they ended up changing that to Moonraker. And what I read is mostly because of the success of the original Star Wars film in 1977. So this one has the plot of the Moonraker film is there is a evil villain, shocking. His name is Drax, and Hugo Drax, I guess, to be precise. He wants to create this master race out in outer space and then destroy the Earth. So, I mean, it's pretty elaborate. It's a pretty elaborate plot. So, James Bond and then his cohort, who's played by Lois Chiles, they have to go into outer space to try to take out Drax. So there's all these battles in outer space. There's one thing that actually, frankly, reminded me of Thunderball, where there is just dudes in spacesuits floating outside the space station shooting each other. So there's just all these little laser beams, pew, 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 going all over the place. It probably was like 5 minutes long, and it seemed about 30 minutes. So anyway, Moonraker. And then also, it's so cheesy. I just didn't feel like it had a really good balance. So the worst ones for me were Thunderball, Live and Let Die, with the tie of Moonraker. But let's get to the good stuff now. So the 2 best James Bond movies that I've watched so far. First up is Goldfinger from 1964. So this, Goldfinger was the 3rd James Bond film, and I think they just finally hit their stride. Just everybody, the production crew. I mean, Sean Connery's always been good, but but everything about this film, for my tastes, just really worked well. The premise of this film is great. The villain is a notorious gold thief, and he wants to take all the gold out of Fort Knox. And I mean, it's so great. So, but really everything from the opening song, the title song, sung by Shirley Bassey, all the Bond women, all of the globetrotting, all of the cars, all of the gadgets, all of the action, everything I just thought came together in a really, really good way. So really with this viewing, my favorite Sean Connery Bond film is Goldfinger. So the second favorite film that I've watched so far of the series is starring Roger Moore, believe it or not, which frankly kind of surprised me. I just wasn't sure how much I was going to like these Roger Moore movies again, watching them. But the film is The Spy Who Loved Me, which came out in 1977. And this one is Bond joins up with a Russian spy who's played by Barbara Bach, and they're taking down the villain who, of course, has stolen some more nuclear weapons and is using them as ransom. He's trying to blow up New York City. So, but this film, again, which I thought was interesting in that it's the third Roger Moore James Bond. So again, maybe this is just a good lesson to us, just to know that, maybe you're going to do well on the first round, but it might take a couple movies under your belt before you really hit your stride. So, but again, the same stuff. This has got one of the greatest Bond songs in this opening credits, The Spy Who Loved Me, sung by Carly Simon. Incredible globetrotting. There's some stuff that they filmed in Egypt in this film that just knocked my socks off. I really, really enjoyed rewatching that. Again, that was just so much fun. And Jaws, the villain Jaws is that 7 foot tall dude. He's played by Richard Kyle, but he's got those steel teeth. He makes his debut in this one. He also shows up again in Moonraker, and frankly, it was really stupid in Moonraker. But I just loved his performance, as well as just how scary he is in The Spy Who Loved Me. And again, just like the perfect mix of globetrotting, espionage, action thrills, and camp. There's Roger Moore just kind of dryly gives all those crazy one-liners. And they just were. Everything worked. I thought the script was really solid. Outstanding direction and really, really a good film. So if you're interested in maybe watching an abbreviated list of some of these James Bond films so far, I would recommend Goldfinger and The Spy Who Loved Me. Just coming up, I'll be watching a few more Roger Moore films, and then we'll just see how it works. Roger Moore played James Bond for up until 1985, and then in 1987 Timothy Dalton took over the reins, and he made 2 films, The Living Daylights and License to Kill, and then Pierce Brosnan joined as James Bond in 1995 as GoldenEye. So anyway, I'm excited to watch some of those, and I will report on how I'm doing at a future podcast. Well, that does it for this episode of the Movies Past and Present podcast. Again, links and more information about the movies discussed in today's podcast can be found in the podcast notes on my blog at moviespastandpresent.com. You can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, and links are also on the blog. As always, I hope you'll enjoy some good movies this week, whether they be from the past or the present. Until next time, thanks for listening and be safe out there.